Welcome to the Chamber Vibes podcast with your host, Brittany Timmons, the Greater Guthrie Chamber of Commerce CEO and President. In this podcast, you will hear from local guests who will discuss topics such as leadership, small business, and our vibrant community. You'll also hear success stories and tips from amazing local businesses, dive into important news, meet community leaders, and find out how you can get involved in our community. From the Second Banana Media Studios in beautiful and historic downtown Guthrie, America, here is Brittany Timmons.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Chamber Vibes. Today, I've got my friend Keely with SWAK, also known as
Seal with a Kiss
on today. Yes, so Seal with a Kiss. Check. And first of all, I got a comment. Look at, I don't know where to point. Right here? Yeah, there we go. Look, like Vanna. We have a beautiful backdrop today, and so these are beautiful yarns located right inside your store.
That's right.
That's right. Yes. So let's tell everyone what is Sealed with a Kiss.
Well, short answer, we're a yarn shop. We sell yarn to people who knit and crochet, but we have more than that. You know, we've kind of expanded over the years. We have so many people that just come in that love the store because of the vibe, the colors. Like, I don't do
Again,
this.
the colors. Look at that.
I wish I did. You know, like, well, we can help you out with that. But for those who, you know, maybe just don't, we have handbags. We have a section of like apparel for women, things like that. So we have some cool bags and stuff too.
You do. The bags are kind of your, like, become kind of your thing. You love people carrying unique.
Yes, we have very unique bags. Plus, people who are into, you know, whether it's knitting, crochet, crafts, we're kind of a bunch of bag ladies. You can't have too many bags. Like, oh, new project, I need a new bag. And so, like, all of us have closets full of bags.
That's funny. Yeah, so a yarn store. So, super unique, obviously, kind of unique to our area, and a special niche community. Yes. And so, how in the world did you get into this?
I get into everything I do backwards. You know, everybody wants me to have this story. Like I'm the, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with the book, The Shop on Blossom Street is a New York Times bestseller. It's like a romanticized version of what I do. No, it's not like that. I've actually been in and around this business as long as I can remember. I've been, you know, helping out in yarn shops since the 70s. Believe it or not, I was like this big with my mom, but my mom, you know, helped at yarn shops. Opened her own, did all sorts of needlework. I've literally been around this business since I was very, very young.
So it's really all you know. I mean, not all you know.
I'm really a CPA, believe it or not. But I do other stuff.
But I mean, it's, like I say, all you know, like it started when you were a child.
Yeah, I've always been around this business. And so, and business, you know, being my background, I like business. So my mom, you know, got back into knitting when I was just right out of college, and she wanted to make stuff for me and went to this little store they had at the time. This was forever ago. They're no longer there. And I'm like, please don't do that. I mean, they look like old people. She's like, what do you want? So I started designing the sweaters, and we had so many people just showing up at the house, you know, wanting yarn. And I quit my job as an accountant and opened the store.
And when was that?
Let's see. We've been doing this for over 30 years. So,
Just celebrated 30 years, right?
Just celebrated 30 years. It was only a couple years in when I'm like, kiss the, you know, job goodbye and opened my store. And eventually bought this building here. I've been there for 24 years. So.
Right. I was going to say, not as long as you've been in business, but almost.
Almost, yeah. I've been in building a long time, Yeah,
you've seen a lot of change in Guthrie and been here through highs and lows and all the things. Wow, so cool. So you guys started designing. Let's talk, we can go a little bit more into the background of it. Because your story is really neat. So kind of dive, I'm giving you permission, Keely. Dive in more to the details of that as far as the actual start of it all.
The start of it all? Yep. Well, you have to kind of go back to what was the hot fashion at the time. It was the early 90s. In college, I finished up college. I actually worked in high-end fashion. I worked at Balliot's. And the style at the time were these, the barrack sweaters. I'm dating myself. A lot of younger people are like, what are those? And they're basically the picture sweaters with all the stuff on them. And I actually saved up, took like almost 2 paychecks to buy one. And it had baseball, and I bought one. And I brought it home, and my mom was like, please don't tell anybody I made that, because it was knitted so terribly. You know, they're super expensive. You know, even today, when you buy like even high-end sweaters, the materials and the workmanship that you get are really like poor quality compared to what we crank out, our customers do. Right. Don't get me wrong. Don't call me. We don't make sweaters.
Right.
For
like
people.
the difference between like mass production.
Right.
And somebody even sitting and doing it.
Haute couture quality materials are really low end for what we would do. They just can't afford the quality that we have. And so that's what I wanted my mom to knit for me. And so she's like, okay, if you can come up, she couldn't make the pictures. I'm like a rectangle artist. I started doing all the designing, and she got really deep into the knitting and to the technique behind it, because that was another problem, getting into technical knitting stuff, that the knitting technique you use to make pictures like that, the information out there was awful. There was none. No one knew how to do it right. They still, a lot of them don't. But my mom was a perfectionist, and that's kind of what we're known for in the whole knitting world, is our contributions to Intarsia knitting and how to make it look perfect. My mom was a perfectionist. Her knitting looked perfect. When she put, a picture on a sweater, she wanted it to look perfect too. And so, and I still carry that on.
So did you have an art background, or you just started kind of doodling and figured this? Like if I sat down, Keely, and tried to draw a sweater, it would look like a stick figure. Like it would not look good.
Well, me too.
So you just have this natural ability.
I'm not that kind of artist. So if you wanted me to draw you, say a picture of a horse to put on a sweater, you go, okay, this isn't going to end so well. But it's something about with knitting, your stitches, it's like if you've ever done like cross stitch or stuff, where you have a graph. You guys are familiar with graph paper, you have squares. With knitting, it's rectangular. They're not, stitches aren't square. And so it's basically combining rectangles with colors to make pictures. And I found I have a knack for that. Clearly. And it's not that easy to do, actually, because you can, even if you draw the picture out, you're still limited with, pixelate. It's like making pixelated pictures. Yeah. Yeah, so I have a knack for that. And so that's kind of how we got it going. And then now those are, the fodder of ugly Christmas sweaters.
But now they're popular in an ugly way.
But, so that's kind of how we got started. And that's what, our mailer, we were selling our patterns all over the world.
Talk about the mailer, because I know this story because...
We got started with mail order first, we were just working out a bedroom in the house. And we were sending stuff all the continents, all over the globe. Our patterns. We took out a little ad in the back of Vogue Knitting magazine. It was about this big. I even kind of tried to draw it myself. It wasn't that great because I can't draw. We've established that. and it just took off. And it really, I was a novelty at the time because I was so young. I was in my early 20s, and here I am, I'm doing this. And back then, they really thought all knitters were, 80 years old or 90 years, or very, very old.
And you were elderly like, not true.
No. And so I got a lot of media at the time. I know that I think the Oklahoman did it. Was it Oklahoma or my local paper? Lawton. I'm from Lawton originally, and I think they did a story about me because they thought that was interesting. Or maybe it's Edmond. I forget. It's been so many years ago. One of the local papers did a story about me because here I am, this young person with a knitwear design company, and it got picked up on the AP, and it ran in newspapers all over the country. So we get mail written to just Keely. They wouldn't even have my last name. It's SWAK. With no address. And it's a great thing living in Guthrie because the mailman knew where to find me. And so we'd get all this mail with no address. I mean, no zip code, and they would find Keely at SWAK, in Oklahoma somewhere.
Yeah. So how did you guys come up with the name SWAK? I love the acronym.
Well,
that's fun and easy to say, but how did you come up with it? And again,
I would love to tell you we had this great inspiration or this really did a lot of research. The truth is, my mom, every story I have takes a while.
That's okay.
My mom, before we did this,
there's great. She's perfect podcast guest.
I don't
Everyone
know about
take
that.
Notes.
Everybody would, like I said, the book version of what sounds lovely for a movie. But the reality is, my mom years ago, before we started this, she was a big crafter of all sorts, and they were making purses. Again, at the time, going to date myself, they were called Soliato. It was a type of fabric, and they were laminate fabric bags. And she had this fancy sewing machine. She and her friends were making Soliato purses for themselves, and then everybody in Edmond wanted one too. And their initials were Sherry was my mom, her friend Wanda, and she had a friend named Karen. So they had a little stamp. So when we decided to start doing this pattern business, 'cause I'm like, well, Mom, there's got to be other girls like me who want these patterns. We never really thought past, maybe a few people want them. And so we already had the stamp, and that's why we picked the name. Plus, it worked because we were doing mail order. We kissed the back of the envelope. You kind of get that whole thing. So
your mail order was sealed.
Sherry,
with a kiss.
somebody
Maybe
starts with a W, who we don't have, and K for Keely, but so there's still what's her name is what Sherry, what's her name, and Keely, we could say it stands for now.
I like it.
Yeah, so really it wasn't some great planning. Like I said, I fall into everything.
But
I do
it
backwards
works, and now it's fun, and
to do it. Well, it works.
It was meant to be. Yeah.
And I like the lips. It's fun. We have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, there's only so many yarn, especially when I transitioned into being a store. There's at the time, especially, there's only so many names for a yarn shop that it really becomes. In fact, there was one for a while. It was called, real creative, the Yarn Shop.
Oh.
Great name. And then the hot name back then was the Yarn Barn. No, thank you. I mean, which one? There was like 3 in every state.
Okay. So I think what's neat about, because I remember when we first got together, you're like, what is Sealed with a Kiss? So I think it creates that sense of, what is that? What kind of store is that? And then they want to go in or look it up because you're like, it doesn't say in your name what.
Right. Because if it said the Yarn Barn, you wouldn't come in and find out I have really cool bags, right?
Right.
So it
Very
works.
true. Mm-hmm. Yes. The Yarn Barn. Yeah. I'm going to laugh about that. No, yes.
There still are some. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Well, that's okay.
It rhymes.
That's
not
okay.
much else rhymes with yarn if you think about it.
True.
Yeah.
Very true. Well, I love it. So that's fun. So that's how you became SWAK.
Uh-huh.
So how did you end up in Guthrie? You said you got the building 23,
through my parents.
Ago.
I'm originally from Lawton, but I went to high school in Edmond and in college there too. And my mom hated the house we lived in Edmond. We bought it at the height of the oil boom, and the real estate market went kaput, and she got stuck there. And she always lived in a historic home.
Okay.
And so she wanted a historic home. She looked and looked for years. And my dad actually found her the house that they...
Good place to look for a historic
home.
And
I was, you're out of college, you're kind of bouncing around, and I was just living with my parents. My parents were cool. I didn't mind. So I moved with them. In fact, I started a job the day they moved to Guthrie. I was working as an accountant all the way at the airport, driving that every day.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah, good timing, huh?
Yeah.
So that's how I just wound up here with them. Like I said, I don't
then you guys were doing the mail orders from home, and then that just started growing. Mm-hmm. So then you found, was the building vacant?
I actually was in a little house on the west side for a while. I bought me a house, about a little house for myself, and I was only there for a couple years. I was there for a year, and then I met my husband. And then wound up over there, So then I sold the house and bought this building because I knew we needed to grow because we just boom in no time.
Yes, and there it is on the screen.
Oh yeah, there's my store. There's the old girl. Yeah, I love my old building. I'm glad I have that now.
Oh, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, and you're located right in a good spot in downtown Guthrie on the East Block.
Yes,
and the East Block is coming alive. It's come alive in the last 2 years. It is alive. I meant like it's coming more alive. There's more things that have been happening with the distillery coming in.
Right. Well, we used to just be the block on the other side, which was not necessarily a problem because we had the good parking. We had the parking lot out back, and that's important to us because we, have lots of people gathering, and we need parking.
But now you have the shops, and then the Wander Inn, and the new art gallery, and there's just a lot.
There's a lot happening.
Yes. It's exciting.
Glad you decided to join me over here.
Yeah, so you've been in business 30 years. So congratulations on that, friend. That's huge. So you have
not easy.
I was going to say, I'm sure you have some stories.
Horror story, part, excitement, comedy, everything all rolled into one. It's not easy.
Right. Yeah. No, you have to ride the times, with the economy, and then, throw a pandemic in there.
Well, I always say that anybody can be in business and do well in a good market. I mean, you don't have to have much skill or talent if the market's there. Now, when all the things fall apart, and it will, I mean, all markets are cyclical, whether it's your industry or whatever, and when things just go, that's when you really can see what it takes, because that's hard, and I've been there. It hasn't always been happy.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
I can imagine in 30 years.
It's not all flowers and roses.
No.
I mean, it's tough. There are tough times.
Yeah.
And you have to be able to pivot and make hard decisions and things like that.
Pivot was like the word. We've all used pivot a lot. I've used that a lot on the podcast.
I was so prepared for that.
You were.
Yes,
pivot.
I was. I didn't mean to be.
The pandemic, I know.
I was ready. I didn't know I needed to be ready, but I'm like, hey, put me in. I'm good at stuff like that.
Yeah. And so obviously located in downtown Guthrie, but your market is worldwide. So let's talk a little bit about that as far as your customer base.
From all over. Don't get me wrong. We have a very strong Guthrie customer base. A friend of mine who had a store here for a long time, she said, during tough times that your locals will get you through.
Sure.
And Elaine was right. That is important. Your local business, I never take that for granted because I know that good times, bad times, locals are going to be there with you. But it extends beyond that. On a daily basis, we bring in people from all over, especially, our area, all parts of Oklahoma City, Tulsa, throughout Oklahoma, Wichita. I mean, this is what we see most of the time. And they're coming to buy yarn, and while they're here, they everything.
Get to
where am I going to
eat?
Right. Where's a good place to,
you're like a good hub for referrals and telling them where to go and what to do.
And so that's the difference. Yeah. Some people think, you have tourists come to Guthrie and then they come to you. It's like, no. They come to, and we get that too, but for the most part, every day it's people come to us and then they come to Guthrie.
Right, for your unique, what you do.
Oh, yeah. Sure. And if they're coming on a road trip, we have them from Florida all over, because that's what knitters do. They're like, where's a yarn shop? And they'll be pulling off that highway and they'll come see me. Plus, they know that I have a good shop. They see me. But we see people from all over.
And you sell yarn from, talk about some of the product that you have.
Oh, gosh.
You have, I don't know it because I don't knit, but, I've learned this just going in your store and learning you. You've got some basic yarns, maybe lower end, all the way to some really high end products.
Right.
So kind of talk about the variety.
Only experience with yarn is maybe walking the aisles down at Walmart. That is not even in the same category as what we do. That's more of a craft yarn,
right?
And it's got a place in the world.
Hobby Lobby,
exactly. But that's not what we do.
Right.
Everything we have is going to be much more. Oh, thank you, Chris.
Yeah.
High end, yes. And we are a Rowan flagship store. That is an iconic brand out of England that's been around for over 40 years, and we're happy to be a Rowan flagship store. It's a big deal. There's not many of them, but we carry mostly natural fibers. We're not what they call a fiber snob, in that we do have some synthetics. Sometimes you want to have them blended. I explain all the time that just because your wool has some polyamide doesn't mean it's cheaper. It just means it's stronger. Okay. It's going to wear better, things like that. But
yes, you can visit. Chris had it pulled up there for us. Sealed with a kiss on what's our actual URL? SWAKknit.com. Yes. And people can shop online.
Right. Yarns from all over the world, really.
And you ship worldwide?
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought you had customers literally from all over the world.
That's frequent visitors at the post office. How do you think I met my husband? got hooked up with, that's how I met him on one date, through the post office.
Oh, there. See?
I didn't know that. I love post office. I love postal things. That's just me.
I met my husband on a blind date.
Yeah.
So we have that
in common. We have that in common.
Yeah. Yes. It does work, people I know that are out there trying to figure that out.
Sometimes I think other people can pick better for you than you can for yourself.
True, and this is pre-online dating too.
Oh, so yes, I'm rocking it old school. Yeah. Yes,
At the post office.
Dating advice from, middle-aged women. I know about you, me. I'm in that category. You're younger than me.
I like it. Well, that's all right. So definitely check out our website because there's all kinds of amazing products and stuff on there. Let's talk about some of the classes that you offer. For those that are like, you know what? I have never knit before in my life. Can they come in and learn?
Absolutely. And that's always been my goal. From the minute we built our store, and designed it from our displays, is that I'd been in yarn shops my whole life. And most of the time you go in one and you think, I don't want to do this. I wanted it to say, I don't know what you people are doing here, but I want in. And that's the goal that we have. So yes, we do teach. We teach all the time. We have beginner classes every month. So you don't have to know a thing. Just sign up, show up. We get you. And then you can join our little group of knitters and crocheters. You do crochet too. We have technique classes. We have guests come in from all over. I hosted a designer from England back in February, Georgia Farrell. She's one of the Rowan designers, and I have another designer coming in a few weeks from New Hampshire, Marin, and then the owner of a company that's Turkish. She's from Turkey and from Florida, but he'll be here. Yeah.
Wow. And so, do any of the knitters, do they sell products in your store?
No. That's
Okay.
not a thing.
Not a thing.
It is. There are people on Etsy and do stuff like that, but for the most part, especially when you're using the quality materials, it does not pay. It really doesn't. And people don't understand that. They'll say,
it's more for the enjoyment.
If you said, hey, Keely, would you make me a sweater? I'd say, okay, what is something that you really like? Say you really, really like to cook. It's like, oh, you're going to cook dinner for my family for the next 45 days every night and pay for it? You say, no, I'm not going to do that.
That's a good point.
But it is. It's a labor of love. And just what the supplies cost can be kind of surprising, but they're not the same. You're not going to get anything like this when if you don't make it yourself.
Right. But you can get some of the items in store, right? Some of the tops and
we do have some ready to wear, and those are
ready to wear. See, I didn't know the term.
The term is ready to wear. We do.
I was like, girl, I know you have.
We do have
clothes in there.
Now, if it's something knitted out of yarn, no. Like top I'm wearing, this is a sample, and so no. But we do have some really cute tops. So thanks, Chris is so good at this. We carry a lot of American brands. We have Inoa and Namsar, different brands that we carry that really do quite well.
Ready to wear.
Ready to wear. I mean, she put it on.
Yes.
My dad would always say, because we get so many people come in, and we first opened with, I want that sweater, and he's from the construction background. He goes, what you need to do is get the yarn and get the pattern, the needles, and put a sticker on it that says, some assembly required.
Yeah. True.
Yeah, and then everything else says.
Okay, just out of curiosity, what is the time frame to make like a top you're wearing or a sweater? Like how long truly can that take?
It depends on how much time you have. This is when I have some sample knitters that do samples for me. I sent these out in June, this one, and Donna just dropped this off Saturday, and she's a very fast knitter. So some people will work on them, especially if you're just, at night when you have time for a few hours, you might work on a sweater for months.
Wow.
It's slow fashion. It's a new thing. It is actually a new thing. It's like slow food, slow fashion.
But like you said, labor of love, and that just makes it that much more special.
It is.
I know like somebody made my girls, both when I was pregnant, both my girls, a blanket. And those blankets, in fact, my husband's great grandmother, she lived to be 100. She knit a baby blanket for Aubrey, and she passed away before Aubrey was born. But like I love that because I know the time that she put into that, and and it just makes it different than just going to Target and buying something.
The supplies cost, because when you're like, well, the yarn for that sweater is like just to start $150, or you didn't get a sweater at Walmart. I'm like, oh, don't go there. No, not the same thing.
It's just not the same.
Not the same at all. It really is. So if anybody does ever make anything, regardless of the quality of materials, you need to thank them. Yes. That is a big deal. And that's why it's not. I mean, we could not find people to work for that wages. Right. I mean, pennies an hour. And so when you see things in the store that are labeled as hand knit, for one, if they just say hand knit, they are not hand knit like you're thinking. Keely, with 2 needles knitting, they're done with a knitting machine. Okay. That's operated by hand. If they say hand knit on 2 needles, then they are. You rarely see those. And when you do, they're usually from third world countries, with people making very, very little money. They're not made domestically because there is just no way.
Right.
It just does not pay.
No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, with Labor of Love, a project that is very near and dear to your heart here in Guthrie, is the hats that you give away on our Halloween on our downtown trick-or-treat event. So let's talk a little bit about the history of that.
Well, we were involved with, there's different hat making things. And one of the big ones they were doing was for with the purple hats the health department would do for the shaken baby awareness. And it would just be 1 month a year. And out at our health department, the gal said, it's really a shame that we got all these hats in and none of them are going to go to anybody in Guthrie, because face it, babies are not born in Guthrie, at least on purpose. That's an emergency situation. All of the birthing hospitals are not in our community.
Right.
And I thought, you're right. And we need to come up with something better. And then it hit me. I thought, my gosh, Halloween. We see every child in Logan County. And what a great way to distribute hats. And my customers, we have a lot of them. They love to make things for people and just make hats. And they like it because we have no limitations. I'm like, make a hat. I hope it fits a kid. Big enough to fit a kid. And that's all we ask for.
But sometimes they're little. And
sometimes they're little. And sometimes you get some really tiny ones, but it's all good. Sometimes the kids get them for their dolls. They're just excited, or their cat. I have yet to see a cat in a hat, but you never know. Or if
we do have one. His name's Ronnie Fields. And he walks around in a cat in a hat.
But if they're too, sometimes at the end of the, Halloween, if we have a bunch of little tinies left over, we do send those down to Children's for the NICU. So they know hat goes to waste. The kids love them. But we thought, well, we need to do just more and hand out hats. So we partnered with Brandy at Sooner Success, which if you're not familiar with that program and you're a parent, you need to be. They are a division of OU Health Science Center. They help parents with children with special needs. And that does not mean your child has to have like a birth defect or a diagnosed condition, because all of us as parents, sometimes your child has a special need. It might just be a temporary problem.
Sure.
And Brandy is there with resources to help. And so many people think, well, I'm not, we're middle class. We don't qualify for anything. Well, you'd be surprised. There are a lot of resources out there for parents of all income levels to help, because if you've got, a problem, it doesn't matter how much money you have. You still need to know where to go and who to talk to.
100%.
Brandy does that. She's not there handing out aid, but she knows who does and where all of the resources are. So we hand out information with that, and her referrals have gone up as a result. Even we got a call last year. It's like, whoa, not us. Yeah, we're not, but we're at least able to pass that on. So that's the information we give out with each hat every year.
The card attached.
The card, with the hat, and to get them in the hands of parents, just to build awareness that there is someone in our community who can help parents, because, parents need help. It's tough raising a kid.
It is. Yeah. That's amazing. So do you know about how long you've been doing this project?
Jeannie and I were just talking about that earlier today. We want to think it's 5 years maybe.
Okay.
It's before the pandemic. Because pandemic, we went and distributed them at schools.
I remember my girls getting them, and I remember it happening before I was with the chamber, and I've been here 3.5 years.
Yeah, so it's been 4 or 5 years that we've been doing it, and we regularly give out about 1,200 hats.
I was going to ask you, it's a lot.
And everybody's like, oh, thank you, Keely. Ask me how many I've made. I've made none. I don't have time. But I have wonderful people who do it. There's a couple ladies who just dropped off like almost 200. They usually make more than that, but they didn't have as much time this year. The library, if you'd like to get involved with this program, the library, Chris has got a wonderful program.
Learning to Loom.
Learning to Loom, yes. And that you have to have basically very little, you can walk in and do this. They're a hat loom with pegs. Anyone can make a hat on there. And she's got a great group that meets. It's a wonderful thing in our community. And they have made so many hats for us. We just keep sending them more yarn, and they bring us hats. And
so you all supply the yarn and the supplies?
We do. We take in yarn donations. So if you know from people all the time, so if you have extra yarn laying around, or grandma dies and you have a truckload of yarn, bring it. And that's what we do with it. We get it in the hands of these hat makers. And so that way they have the materials that they need. And then a lot of my customers have, stash problems anyway, where they have too much yarn.
Stash problems.
Yeah, it's called a stash. Yeah. And so they
like that.
They like it because they call it a stash buster. That way they don't feel so bad about that half skein left over, and then they use it up. And so charity is a big part, I think, of a lot of makers, whether it's knit, crochet. We take any type of handmade hat is what we're asking for.
Yeah, I think that's amazing.
Yeah,
so you're getting, it's almost fall.
Yes,
I mean, the temperatures need to reflect.
See all the IKEA bags stacked full of hats in my storeroom. Yeah, we have massive amounts of hats.
If you have not been by, go check it out and go see these hats, and then definitely you'll see them at Halloween.
The kids love them.
I know. Like I said, we have several. My girls still have them.
We didn't know how it would go over. I know the first year we did it, my husband's like, and you got candy too, didn't you? I'm like, no. But I said, we can't. If you've been downtown for Halloween, it's like we only have 2 arms. We can't give out hats and candy because those kids are going to be mad. You're going to get your building toilet paper.
They are so not mistreated.
No, in fact, I've seen them pass
downtown.
the candy and run to get our hats.
Aww.
And I'm like, all right. So, and to me, it's I love what we do because it's really a reflection on the women who make these hats and people that provide this. I'm just glad to be able to facilitate all of this, and I want to give our makers a little attention because that's 100%. Really all about them.
I love it too. It's definitely something that has stood out to me. Like I said, even before I knew you or was with the chamber, it's just something I know that's what you all do. So
it's fun.
I hope you can continue it on for years and years.
As long as you have the help. As long as we have,
because you're not making 1,200 hats.
No, I'm running a business. I would love to sit and make 1,200 hats, but no.
Yeah, no, that's so awesome. So talking about community and ways that you're giving back, things like that, just you as Keely and as a business owner, what are some of the things that you love about Guthrie? Obviously, you chose to stay here, keep your business here, your family's here. So what are just some of your personal favorite things about Guthrie?
Personal favorite things about Guthrie? Gosh, there's a lot of personal favorite things about Guthrie. I just like being in a smaller town. Like I said, I'm from Lawton, which is not a small town at all. In fact, when I lived in Lawton, it was bigger than Norman and Edmond and all of the towns. Yeah. But what makes Lawton different than a lot of towns is that it's a military town, and I'm not from that part of Lawton. I mean, I'm multi-generation going back to the land run. Well, they didn't do land run back then, but that's how long my family's been in the area. And when you peel off, all of the people that have settled because of the military, there's just a real small core group of people. And I miss that when we moved to Edmond. So coming back to, on to Guthrie, it kind of is like the community where, everybody knows everybody's related to everybody. And that's the part of Lawton I'm from, that's the tiny little, everybody, knows everybody. Mm-hmm. And so I like that aspect of it. I like it that I walk in the post office, everybody knows who I am.
Yes.
Yeah, and gives my employees a hard time.
It's a good feeling. I can relate because I'm like you. I was not from here. I'm not born and raised here. My family chose Guthrie. But for the same reasons. Like Sapulpa is twice the size of Guthrie, but growing up there, my parents were involved. I went to a church that has been around for 100 years. We were really involved in the community. My mom actually volunteered with the chamber. And so it felt small, and I knew people, and people knew, and I wanted that again. And so my husband and I talked about it, and we were like, okay, Guthrie. He's from Edmond, so the small town thing was kind of new for him. But, for the same reasons, I can relate. Like, I love being able to walk around and know. And my kids, when my kids get out of school, like my daughter's at the junior high now. and she wants to start walking downtown. And I'm like, in other towns, I would be like, absolutely not,
No, you can do
and
that.
Our town just lights up like they're on the screen.
It's
Christmas time.
My son, you can go and just hang out downtown and don't worry about him. I know when some of his friends would come up, because they're not familiar with Guthrie, he goes to school in the city, and they're like, the kids can just walk around downtown. I'm like, they'll be fine.
They'll be fine.
I'm not worried. They're like, are you sure? I'm like, yes. They're perfectly fine. They're
it really
kids.
is good.
It's just a nice place to live. It's a nice place to raise family. I like it because what's nice about Guthrie is people respect you, know you, not because of maybe what kind of car you drive or how much wealth you have to throw around. It's because of who you are, and I like that. It's more of it's just more. I don't know how you word it, but it's just better because it's not superficial, and I don't like superficial. I like real. I like real people.
And in Guthrie, we have all sorts of people too. I like that too.
It takes all kinds.
It does.
I crave diversity in life. Personally, I just can't stand the same thing over and over, and I love that because we do a little bit of everything here, and that is just perfect by me.
Yeah, it makes us special.
I get bored otherwise.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I love that. I love that. I truly think that you offer something so special to our community.
Oh,
like
thank
I said,
you.
You truly are a tourist destination
we
for
try
a
to
lot
be.
of people. Yeah, and then you get to share Guthrie with them when they're in the shop.
We have to be. I know years ago I had an owner of one of the companies back east come to visit, and he's like, how does this work here? Not just in Guthrie, but just in Oklahoma, because we do not have the population that they have back east to support a store like mine. So I have to be.
Right.
I have to be a destination. I have to, I have to hustle because it's just not something that was just here. I basically
and you have to keep it
willed
fresh.
this to happen. Yeah.
Like you have to keep it fresh too. Like new products and keep things going. And then, like I said, your online business, you had to learn how to do all of that, which is a whole nother bear in itself.
Right.
E-commerce.
I do all that myself.
So,
we're basically, you see it, I do it.
Yeah. So how many staff do you have there?
I run it with a pretty small staff. I have Jeannie who works for me full time. There's Lori and Jennifer who are come in a couple days a week. And then I just hired a new teenager. We haven't had a teenager in a while, so I'm excited about that. She started yesterday. And so
cool.
It's nice to have it, I like that. We haven't had a kid in a while, and it is time to have one back. I feel like it's as important. It's a good place because we're not just giving them a place to work, but we also, I feel like we teach a lot. We're there to teach. And so just about working and life and whatnot.
Because our younger generation, they're going to be us someday, and then
that's right.
That's the way it works. So
stick with me, you'll learn something. Because I'm always like, girl, don't do that.
Yes, I love that. Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been so much fun chatting with you. Is there anything else you want to add that we didn't cover as far as what's going on at the store?
I think you've kind of got it covered. Okay. You know me, I could write a book. I
know. Well, that's what I was going to say.
We could have the soap opera down there.
Go in and chat with Keely. Come to her chamber coffee. She has one every year. Come in, say hello, learn more about the store. Even if it's not your thing or your hobby, go in and check out. I'm always amazed when I go in there. Like I said, I don't knit, but I have a major respect and appreciation for it.
We
and
need
what
to change
you do.
that. We have classes.
We do. I know. Well, I was just thinking, what age do you start that again?
12.
Okay, because Hadley's 12 and a half.
Yeah.
My daughter. So.
Under 12, it's usually more of a one-by-one thing. But
she's loomed before, so I need to get her.
It's good for you. It really is. It's good for your mind. It's good for, there's all sorts of health and mental health benefits. And slow fashion really is a thing. I'm not kidding. With the kids, they're realizing how much of a polluter clothing is, and the way that we buy clothes, where we go with our coupon and buy all these cheap clothes all the time.
So true.
Is so bad for the planet. The kids realize that. And so that's why you'll see big uptick in used clothing. I know one of the antique stores told me that's what they're selling, used clothing.
My girls lately, I found a bunch of clothes of mine, like 20-year-old high school stuff that they're like, this is cool, Mom. I'm like, it is. And they've been wearing it to school. And I'm like, okay.
So I think they're into the repurposed, and they're also into the making. So crochet's hot right now with the kids.
Maybe I can get Hadley and myself in, and we can learn a new thing. So well, be sure to follow Keely. She's on TikTok now too.
I'm everywhere.
Still with a kiss, and definitely social media. She goes live. How often do you go live?
Tuesdays at noon.
I thought at least
never
once a
know
week.
what's going to happen.
I know. So definitely check out her live. She does great. There is her address, 109 East Oklahoma, and 282-8649. And then howdy at SWAKknit.com. Those are some great ways to get a hold of her. So reach out if you have any questions. Of course, we've got our info too at the chamber. You can stop by there as well. But highly recommend you pop in and say hello to Keely and learn more about SWAK. So thank you so much for being my guest today.
Anytime.
Appreciate it. Yes, and we'll be excited for Halloween coming up soon. And
can't wait.
All the pretty hats. So, all right, everyone, that's it for today. We'll see you next time on Chamber Vibes.
Thanks for listening to the Chamber Vibes podcast from Second Banana Media Studios in beautiful downtown Guthrie, America. Be sure and check out a new episode every other Monday. And until then, remember to choose Guthrie. Thanks for listening to the